So Brian did a great job with an initial outline over Montage, but I'm obviously going to get into the details in more in depth. So Montage, what are we? So we are an explorer developer in Cote d'Ivoire, led by, I think, one of the best teams that you'll find kicking around Africa. And that's Rick Clark and Hugh Stewart, which, they've worked together for over 20 years. Rick's been backed by the Lundin Group for, say, 25 years, and they've had tremendous success. You look back to 2010, they sold Redback Mining, which was a diversified producer in Ghana and Mauritania, to Kinross for $7 billion. Subsequent to the Redback sale, they went into Sudan, made a significant discovery at Block 14, advanced that project over a period of several years, and then ultimately sold that company to Perseus in 2022. And I highlight those two things at the beginning because I think so much of what you want to look for in a company of this stage, where we're a single asset company effectively, is the team and the backers. Like I said, I think we have one of the strongest teams that you'll find. And when you look at the track record of the Lundin family over the course of the last 30 plus years, we have some of the best backing that you'll find as well, which goes a long way, I think, in limiting the risk and enhancing the upside potential of any investment that you're making. So I'll park that point for now, and I'll just talk a bit more about what Montage has. So what we have is the Koné Gold Project. You can see it circled there. It's in northwest Cote d'Ivoire. And the history of the Koné project is interesting. So back in 2008, when Redback Mining was having tremendous success with exploration, Hugh Stewart discovered 20 million ounces of gold at Tasiast. He was given free rein to go wherever he wanted to in West Africa to find a target that would be a Redback scale target. And that took him to this part of Cote d'Ivoire. You can see there's two major structures. Well, you'll see on a map later on, there's two major structures that intersect where the Koné permit sits. And so that's what he pegged. It was a blind discovery that they made back in 2009, and they started to drill it in 2010, and that was coincident with the takeover by Kinross. So while Kinross acquired the entire portfolio of Redback, they actually did nothing with these assets in Cote d'Ivoire. And while Rick and Hugh were kicking around in Sudan in 2017, they were able to buy these properties back from Kinross at a very attractive price, and then they started to follow up on the work that they had done back in 2009, 2010. My point being is that these guys always saw that this asset had significant potential, and they went back after it at a time where they thought it was possible, and started to spend significant money on the project. Fast forward another year or so, they released an initial 1.5 million ounce resource on Koné, and this was while it sat within Orca. Coincident with that, they were starting to think about what's our exit plan for Orca. As a junior company in Sudan, very difficult to advance a project on a standalone basis, so clearly they were looking for a partner or a takeover. Given Rick's history, he understood that you're not going to get value for everything in your portfolio necessarily, so the decision was made in 2019 to spin out the Cote d'Ivoire assets that were within Orca, and that was when Montage was created. And so Cote d'Ivoire, people look at West Africa, and I think West Africa gets, appropriately gets, assigned a higher level of risk in certain ways. But if you look at Cote d'Ivoire compared to its neighbors, it is, I think, a much better jurisdiction to be in terms of politics, in terms of safety. It is underexplored. The mining department there is very much pro-development. We have a great relationship there, and there's new discoveries being made all the time. And so just to dig in a bit more about Koné. So what Koné is a 3.4 million ounce reserve project, large scale, has the potential to produce over 300,000 ounces per year, low strip, very simple metallurgy, soft rock, so lower power costs, and it is a very straightforward project from a build perspective. And that's great. And so we issued a feasibility study on that project back in 2022. But, it's all about how do you make things better. And I'm going to jump around a little bit here just to kind of give you a bit more detail on what our plans are. So here's where Koné sits. It's a large-scale, very simple open-pit project, 300 meters wide at surface. Average true width, it's about 250 meters, hanging wall to footwall. I don't think you can find a simpler open-pit project. Has a paved road going directly to the project site already. And as Brian highlighted, it has some very robust financial metrics. And so that's the starting point. You'll see there that the average grade is 0.66 of a gram. Despite that lower grade profile, it does still generate significant economic benefit. Now, as Brian alluded to, this past year we were able to do a deal with Barrick and Endeavour, where we consolidated essentially all of the anomalism that you're seeing there on that map. I don't think I have a pointer here, but you can see on the map there at the bottom, the Koné deposit sits in one license. That was the license that we took the company public off of, and effectively all the ground to the north of that we acquired or we received in new applications. And it's significant for a number of reasons. One, Barrick had been looking for a Barrick scale target. That would be 3+ million ounces at +3 grams. Didn't find it. And what we're looking for is much different. We're looking for higher grade satellite pits. They do not have to be large to have a dramatic impact on the Koné project. And so the plan this year is to drill aggressively. As Brian said, we did put out an initial batch of drill results shown on this map here at the Gabon-Gogo deposit, targets called Senna, Koban North, Lekolo North, and Lekolo Main. But in addition to that, there is a database of historic work, historic costs of around US $20 million spent by Barrick and predecessor companies that gives us a great head start in terms of where we should be exploring to make new discoveries. I'll just speak a little bit about Gabon-Gogo. You look at that deposit there, it's 350,000 ounces currently at 2.1 grams. So that's more than triple the average grade of Koné. It's within 30 kilometers of where a mill will eventually be built at the Koné deposit. And that deposit alone can take the production profile of this project from, say, 260,000 ounces a year on average for the first 9 years to closer to 300,000 ounces of gold. That's from one relatively small but very high-grade satellite deposit, and the objective over the course of this year is to find as many of those as we can. I don't want to get into too much detail, but I'll show you a couple maps here. So this is the region that hosts Gabon-Gogo to the south. What you're looking at there is around a 15-kilometer corridor with numerous areas with active artisanal mining. Lots of drill results are shown on that page. We will be following up aggressively in this region. We're seeing resource development potential at the moment at Koban North, where those grades are kind of hanging together over 400 to 500 meters of strike length. In addition, the Kora-2 Northwest area has never been drilled. There's active artisanal workings. And we did a first pass geochem program there back in December, which has identified some very large 100 ppb anomalies. And those are the red shapes that you see on the map. And for Hugh Stewart, the starting point for him where he'll go in and start drill testing is a 100 ppb anomaly. And we have many of those in this particular area to explore. Just going a bit to the east here, this is the Lekolo trend. It's really on the main structure that goes from Koné all the way up to Tongon and then up into Burkina Faso. It's much more linear in terms of its setting. And all of those stars on that map show areas with active artisanal mining, and that's across probably a 17-kilometer strike length. We had a great drill result back in January of 20 meters at 7 grams at Lekolo Main, so we'll be looking to do some follow-up there. And we're seeing resource definition potential at the moment at Lekolo North with nice grades and widths over reasonable continuity of strike. So the strategy is simple, and I'll touch on this and then I'll go back to the shareholder basis to talk about that a bit more. Look, we already have a very robust economic deposit at Koné. Right now, based on where we're trading, you're paying $20 per ounce for reserves. Okay, the total resource base of the entire company right now would be closer to 5 million ounces. So that's, say, $15 per ounce. But my point is, that's what you're paying for, but there's so much upside that you're effectively getting for free. The strategy is simple: explore. We're planning to drill 40,000 meters, targeting satellites grading 1.5 grams or higher, all within that truckable radius around the Koné project. I would say we easily have 20 drill targets right now, and we're going to move around and drill them as quickly as we can, and the plan being to increase our resource inventory and then revise a feasibility study at the end of this year. Just going back to the history of the group, obviously the main aim here is to make money for our shareholders, of course, and generate liquidity upon an exit. If you look at the strategy that was so successful at Redback and then Orca, that's certainly plan A in our case. So I'm just rewinding here to look at our shareholder base to expand on some of Brian's points. So you look at the shareholder base here, obviously the Lundin Group has been a significant financial backer. We have some strategic groups on the share register already. I won't speculate on what their intentions are, but you can very much see this being a key asset for both Endeavour and Perseus, given their footprints in West Africa and in Côte d'Ivoire specifically. But there are a number of other mid-tiers and larger gold companies that are operating in West Africa where this would be a great fit for within their portfolio. So I think I'll cut it off there. I'm at time, and thanks everyone for your attention.